What if I told you that there is a psalm, a single psalm, that was deliberately kept out of public teaching for centuries, not because it was forbidden, but because the rabbis who understood its true power feared what would happen if it fell into the hands of people who were not ready to receive it? And what if I told you that today, right now, in this moment, you are ready? I want to tell you something before we go any further. Years ago, I sat with an elderly rabbi in Jerusalem. He was 93 years old, nearly blind, and he had spent his entire life studying the hidden dimensions of Psalms. I came to him with a question about money. I was embarrassed, honestly. I thought a rabbi of his stature would dismiss me. Instead, he smiled. He said, "You think the Torah does not speak about poverty? You think the Psalms of David were only poems?" He reached into a drawer beside him, pulled out a handwritten page, and placed it in my hands. On it was a single psalm. He said, "Read this 3 times with full intention, but first you must understand why it works. Without the understanding, the words are just words." I never forgot that moment, and today I am going to share with you exactly what he shared with me. If you stay until the end of this teaching, you will receive not only the psalm itself, but the specific method, the specific intention, and the specific time to use it. You will understand something about divine abundance that most people, even religious people, have completely backwards, and that misunderstanding is costing them everything. Stay with me. This is going to change things for you. Let me ask you something directly. Have you ever prayed for financial relief and felt like your prayers were bouncing off the ceiling? Have you ever worked hard, done everything right, lived with integrity, and still found yourself staring at your bank account, wondering why the blessing has not arrived? You are not alone. And here is what I need you to understand before anything else. The problem is almost never lack of faith. The problem is almost never lack of effort. The problem, and this is what most teachers will not tell you, is that most of us have been taught to approach divine blessing in a way that is spiritually backwards. We have been taught to ask for abundance while secretly believing we are not worthy of it. And that internal contradiction blocks everything. The Talmud in Tractate Tanit teaches us something extraordinary. It says that the gates of prayer are never closed, never. The gates of tears are never locked. But, and this is crucial, there is a difference between crying out from a place of desperation and speaking from a place of spiritual alignment. One is a wound, the other is a key. Most of us spend our lives crying from the wound. David Hamelech, King David, discovered the key, and he encoded it into a psalm that has been sitting in plain sight for thousands of years, waiting for someone to explain it properly. Let me tell you about David, because his story is the foundation of everything I am about to share with you. We think of King David as the great warrior, the anointed king, the sweet singer of Israel. But before all of that, David was the forgotten one. His own father did not think to call him when the prophet Samuel came to anoint the next king of Israel. Think about that. The prophet of God arrives at your house to choose the next king from among your sons, and your father does not even bother to bring you in from the fields. He presents 7 sons, one by one, and Samuel says no to all of them. Finally, almost as an afterthought, Jesse says, "Well, there is one more, the youngest. He is outside tending the sheep." David, the forgotten one, the overlooked one, the one nobody thought mattered. And Samuel looks at David and immediately knows. This is him. This is the one God has chosen. You see what the Torah is telling us here? You see the pattern? The one the world dismisses is the one heaven has already selected. If you have ever felt overlooked, underestimated, passed over for opportunities that should have been yours, then you and David share something profound. And David did not just survive that experience. He transformed it. He took every moment of abandonment, every period of lack, every night hiding in caves, running from enemies, and he poured all of it into psalms, into prayers, into a direct conversation with the divine that became the most powerful spiritual technology in human history. But wait, because what I am about to tell you about Psalm 23 is going to completely reframe everything you thought you knew about it. Most people believe Psalm 23 is a psalm about comfort in death. You have heard it at funerals. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It has become associated with endings, with grief, with the final moments of life. And that association, I am telling you with complete certainty, is one of the greatest misunderstandings in the history of spiritual teaching. Psalm 23 is not about death. It is not about the afterlife. It is about abundance in this world, in this life, right now. The rabbis who understood this kept it close. They taught it in whispers. Because the full meaning of this psalm, when properly understood and properly applied, activates a spiritual force that the Kabbalists, the mystics of our tradition, call Shefa. Shefa means divine flow. It means the unceasing, unstoppable flow of blessing from the highest source into physical reality. Let me explain what is really being said here, because the Hebrew carries depths that most translations simply cannot convey. When David says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," the Hebrew word for want is exar. And exar does not simply mean lacking something. It means experiencing a state of spiritual incompleteness that manifests as physical lack. David is not just saying, "I will have enough money." He is saying something far more radical. He is saying, because I am in alignment with the divine, the very state of lack cannot exist in my reality. It is a declaration of spiritual identity before it is a request. And that is the crucial difference. That is what most people miss entirely. When you pray from a place of, "I don't have enough, please give me more," you are reinforcing the spiritual frequency of lack. You are, in a sense, praying from inside the problem. But when you read Psalm 23 with the understanding that David intended as a declaration of who you are in relation to the divine, not as a desperate request, something shifts in the spiritual architecture of your life. This is not mystical nonsense. This is rooted in the deepest layers of Torah understanding. The Zohar, the foundational text of Kabbalah, teaches that words spoken with proper intention, with what we call kavanah, actually reshape the spiritual reality around you. Your words are not just sounds, they are vessels, and what you fill them with determines what they carry back to you. Here is what I need you to hear right now, and please listen carefully, because this is the part that nobody explains. Reading Psalm 23 3 times is not a magic formula. Let me say that again. Reading it 3 times is not magic. The number 3, in the tradition, represents completion and anchoring. When we do something 3 times in Jewish law and spiritual practice, we are establishing a chazaka, a firm spiritual hold on something. We are moving it from the level of thought to the level of speech, to the level of action. 3 times means, I am serious, I am committed. I am anchoring this truth in my reality. The reading is the vehicle, but the understanding is the fuel. Without the fuel, the vehicle goes nowhere. Let me share with you a story that illustrates this perfectly. There was a woman in my community. I will not use her real name. I will call her Miriam. And Miriam had been struggling financially for 11 years. Her husband had left. She was raising 3 children alone. She worked 2 jobs and still could not make ends meet. She came to me one evening after services, and she was exhausted in a way that goes beyond the physical. She was spiritually exhausted. She said, "Rabbi, I pray every day. I beg God for help every day. Why is nothing changing?" I asked her, "What do you say when you pray for financial help?" She said, "I say, God, please, I am suffering, I am drowning. Please help me. I cannot take this anymore." I looked at her with great compassion, and I said, "Miriam, You are praying your suffering. You are describing your prison so eloquently that you are reinforcing the walls. She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "Then what do I do?" I told her to go home, open her Psalms, find Psalm 23, and before she read a single word, to sit quietly for 1 minute and say to herself, "I am not asking from a place of lack. I am claiming my position as a child of the divine. I am not begging. I am aligning." And then to read the Psalm 3 times slowly, understanding each word as a declaration of her spiritual reality. She called me 4 weeks later. I will not tell you that all her problems vanished in 4 weeks. Life does not work like a vending machine. But she told me that something had shifted, that opportunities had appeared that had not been there before, that she had received a call about a better job, that her oldest son had gotten a scholarship she had not even applied for. She said, "Rabbi, it feels like a door opened. That is Shefa. That is what happens when the spiritual flow is unblocked." If you think that story was powerful, what I am about to share next is going to go even deeper into why this psalm works the way it does. The psalm moves through 5 spiritual states, and I want you to understand each one, because when you read the psalm with this map in your mind, every verse becomes activated in a different way. The first state is trust. The Lord is my shepherd. This is not passive submission. This is an active declaration that you are under divine guidance. The second state is contentment. I shall not want. You are declaring that lack is not your spiritual identity. The third state is restoration. He restores my soul. In Hebrew, Yeshovev Nafshi. This is the acknowledgement that you may have fallen into cycles of lack, but the divine is actively pulling you back to wholeness. The fourth state is protection. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. This is your declaration that even in the darkest financial moments, in the moments of maximum fear, you are not alone. And the fifth and final state, this is the one that makes the whole psalm explode with power, is the declaration of abundance. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. David is not asking for a table. David is stating that the table is already prepared. The abundance is already there. The only question is whether you can perceive it and receive it. And here is where I need to warn you about the error that I see people make constantly. They read the psalm as a future wish. Someday God will prepare a table for me. No. David wrote this in the present tense. The table is being prepared now. The oil is being poured now. The cup is overflowing now. The spiritual reality of abundance already exists. Your job, through the reading of this psalm, with proper intention, is to align yourself with what already exists, not to beg for something that does not yet exist. This distinction will change your entire relationship with prayer and with abundance. Let me now give you the precise method, step by step, exactly as I teach it. Choose 3 consecutive days, 3 days in a row. The ideal time is early morning, before you eat, before you check your phone, before the noise of the world enters your mind. If morning is impossible, the second best time is just before sleep. Sit in a quiet place. Take 3 slow, deep breaths. With each exhale, consciously release the anxiety, the fear, the mental chatter about money and lack. With each inhale, bring in a single intention. I am a child of the divine, and I am opening myself to receive what already belongs to me. Then speak these words quietly to yourself before you begin the psalm. I am reading these words not from desperation, but from faith. I am not asking from emptiness. I am aligning with fullness. Let the Shefa, the divine flow, move freely through every channel of my life. Then open to Psalm 23, which in Hebrew is actually Mizmor LeDavid, and read it slowly, word by word, 3 times in succession. Between each reading, pause for 30 seconds of silence. In that silence, see in your mind the image of a table prepared for you. A table of abundance, not from ego or greed, but from the genuine belief that you were not placed on this earth to struggle endlessly. You were placed here to live with dignity, with provision, with peace. On the third day, after the third reading, add this personal declaration in your own words. Something like, I release the belief that I am not worthy of abundance. I release the story that lack is my destiny. I open every door, every channel, every path through which blessing can reach me. And I give thanks, right now, for what is already flowing toward me. This gratitude is not pretending everything is fine. It is the spiritual act of reaching into the future and pulling the blessing into the present. The Talmud in Tractate Berachot teaches that one who gives thanks in advance demonstrates the highest level of faith, and this level of faith is precisely what opens the gates that ordinary prayer cannot open. After the 3 days, continue reading Psalm 23 once each morning, not as a ritual you do mechanically, but as a living conversation, as a relationship. The psalm should feel different each time you read it, because you are different each time you read it. Life responds to that kind of engagement. Heaven responds to that kind of sincerity. There is one more thing I must tell you, and this is what most teachers leave out. The psalm ends with the words, "And I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever." In Hebrew, "V'shavti beveit Adonai leoresh yamim." This is the anchor of everything. You are not just seeking material abundance. You are seeking to dwell in a state of divine connection that makes all abundance possible. The financial blessing is real. The practical improvement in your life is real. But the deeper truth is that when you are spiritually dwelling in the house of the Lord, meaning when your mind and heart are consistently aligned with the divine, everything else follows. The provision follows. The opportunities follow. The right people, the right doors, the right moments follow, because you have become a vessel that is open to receive. Let me bring this teaching home with a final thought, and then I want to speak a blessing directly over your life. King David spent years in caves, years running from those who wanted to destroy him, years with nothing, no palace, no army, no guarantee that he would survive the next day. And yet he wrote, "My cup runs over." He wrote that from a cave, not from a palace, not from comfort, from the deepest difficulty of his life. That is the power of spiritual alignment. That is what this psalm carries within it. It was not written by someone who had everything. It was written by someone who had discovered the source of everything. And the source is available to you right now, exactly where you are. You do not need to wait until your situation improves to begin living in alignment with abundance. You begin in alignment, and the situation responds. That is the law of spiritual life, as our tradition teaches it. Begin now. Begin tonight. Begin this morning. Do not let another day pass where you approach the divine from a posture of lack, when you could be approaching from the posture of a beloved child whose table is already being prepared. Read Psalm 23 3 times, 3 days in a row, with the understanding and intention I have given you today. Do it with sincerity. Do it with patience. And pay attention to what begins to shift in your life, because it will shift. Not because of me, because of the power that is already within these ancient words, waiting to be activated by someone who finally understands what they really mean. If this teaching has opened something in you, share it with someone you love. Share it with someone who is struggling. They deserve to hear this too. And subscribe to this channel, because every week I share teachings like this one. Teachings from the deep wells of our tradition that have the power to genuinely change your life. I want to close by speaking a blessing over you. In the tradition of our people, I say to you, wherever you are watching this, whatever you are carrying right now, Yevarechecha Adonai Veishmarecha, Yair Adonai panav ailecha vichuneka. Yisa Adonai panav ailecha ve'asem lecha shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift his face toward you and give you peace. Go now. Open your psalms. Your table is being prepared.